Do I have any volunteers to do the Mangalacharan today?
Any volunteers?
Okay, then
Look at me.
if no, there's no
Hare
volunteer.
Krishna.
Yes,
Hare
Hare
Krishna,
Krishna.
I'm here.
Hare
I'm
Krishna.
here.
Okay, kindly, Indulekha Mataji, kindly, you are Tish's iPad, but I now recognize
Yes,
this.
my daughter's, mine is playing up, so I took my daughter's.
Okay, thank you very
Jai,
much.
Haribol.
So
Hare
lead
Krishna, everyone.
us in the
Hare Krishna,
Mangalacharan.
everyone. Please kindly accept my humble obeisances for Guru Srila Prabhupada.
Jai.
Thank you. Om Ajnanatimmirandasya Jnananjanasalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kada Mahyam Dadati Sapadantikam Vandyaham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurum Vaisnavam Cha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaityam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Shri Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Visakam Vitam Cha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpati Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namaskite Saptakanchana Gaurangi Shri Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishubhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Bhavaivacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Hare
Krishna, Krishna
Krishna,
Krishna,
Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Would you like me to do the free leading prayers before the Bhagavatam starts?
That's good. Yes, please.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Mukham karoti vachalam pangum langaya degirim yat kripatamaham vande Shri Guru Dina Taranam Paramananda Madhavam Shri Krishna Chaitanya Ishwaram Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narotamam Devim Saraswati Vyasam Tato Jayamudiraye Nashtapraisha Bhatreshu Nityam Bhagavate Sevaya Bhagavatyutam Slokir Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtika. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you very much, Indulekha Mataji. So we are reading the Srimad Bhagavatam. We are on Canto 2, Chapter 6. Chapter 6 is Purusha Shukta confirmed. So we are continuing from where we had left to enjoy the Ram Leelas. But now we are coming back to our Srimad Bhagavatam Canto 2. The text for today is text 43 to 45.
Jai.
Over to you.
Thank you very much. So continuation, text 43 to 45. I'll just read the first part of the three-part shloka. Aham bhavayagya ime prachesa daksha dayoye bhavat adayascha swarlokapala kakalokapala rilokapalas talalokapala. So the translation, which is quite extensive. Translation, I myself, Brahma.
If you need help, we can help you with reading whenever.
Thank you very much.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you.
I can reverse, sorry, Prabhuji. I can read the verses and then we can continue when you are done, when you are ready. Okay, thank you.
Okay. I myself, Brahma, Lord Shiva, Lord Vishnu, great generators of living beings like Daksha and Prajapati, yourselves, Narada and the Kumaras, heavenly demigods like Indra and Chandra, the leaders of the Burloka planets, the leaders of the earthly planets, the leaders of the lower planets, the leaders of the Gandharva planets, the leaders of the Vidyadhara planets, the leaders of the Charnaloka planets, the leaders of the Yakshas, Rakshas, and Uragas, the great sages, the great demons, the great atheists, and the great spacemen, as well as the dead bodies, evil spirits, Satan's, jinn, other words, anything and everything which is exceptionally possessed of power, opulence, mental and perceptual dexterity, strength, forgiveness, beauty, modesty, opulence, and breeding, whether in form or formless, may appear to be the specific truth and the form of the Lord. But actually, they are not so. They are only a fragment of the transcendental potency of the Lord. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Those in the list given above, beginning from the name Brahmaji, the first living creature within the universe, down to Lord Shiva, Lord Vishnu, Narada, and other powerful demigods, men, supermen, sages, rishis, and other lower creatures of extraordinary strength and opulence, including the dead bodies, Satan's, evil spirits, jinn, aquatics, birds and beasts, may appear to be the Supreme Lord, but factually none of them is the Supreme Lord. Every one of them possesses only a fragment of the great potencies of the Supreme Lord. The less intelligent man is surprised to see the wonderful actions of material phenomena, as the Aborigines are fearful of a great thunderbolt, a great and gigantic banyan tree, or a great lofty mountain in the jungle. For such undeveloped human beings, merely the slight display of the Lord's potency is captivating. A still more advanced person is captivated by the powers of the demigods and goddesses. Therefore, those who are simply astonished by the powers of anything in the creation of the Lord, without any factual information of the Lord himself, are known as Shaktas, or worshippers of the great powers. The modern scientist is also captivated by the wonderful actions and reactions of natural phenomena, and therefore is also a Shakta. These lower grade persons gradually rise to become Suryas, worshippers of the sun god, or Ganapatyas, worshippers of the mass of people as Janata Janardhan or Daridra Narayan, etc., in the form of Ganapati, and then rise to the platform of worshipping Lord Shiva in search for the ever-existing soul, and then to the stage of worshipping Lord Vishnu, the super soul, etc., without any information of Govinda, Lord Krishna, who's the original Lord Vishnu. In other ways, some are worshippers of race, nationality, birds, beasts, evil spirits, Satans, etc. The general worship of Shani Dev, the Lord of distressful condition, and Sitala Devi, the goddess of smallpox, is also common to the mass of people. And there are many foolish men who worship the mass of people or the poor class of men. So different persons, societies, and communities, etc., worship some of the potent manifestations of the Lord, wrongly accepting the powerful object as God. But in this verse, it is advised by Brahmaji that none of them is the Supreme Lord. They are only borrowed plumes from the original Almighty Lord Krishna. When the Lord advises in Bhagavad Gita to worship him alone, it is to be understood that worshipping Lord Krishna includes worshipping all that is mentioned, because he, Lord Krishna, includes everyone. When the Lord is described as formless in the Vedic literatures, it is to be understood that all these forms mentioned above, within the experience of universal knowledge, are different exhibitions of the Lord's transcendental potencies only, and none of them factually represents the transcendental form of the Lord. But when the Lord actually descends on earth or anywhere within the universe, the less intelligent class of men also mistake him to be one of them. And thus they imagine the transcendence to be formless or impersonal. Factually, the Lord is not formless, nor does he belong to any of the multiforms experienced within the universal forms. One should try to know the truth about the Lord by following the instructions of Brahmaji. Om Gyana Timirandasya Ganangana Shalakaya Chakshar Unmilitam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. So Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, one who understands, one who appreciates and understands the reasons for my descendants, and who understands the nature of my Leela, he will surely come to me. And the Lord in 925, he gives pretty much the same hint here. Those who worship the demigods will take birth among the demigods. Those who worship ghosts and spirits will take birth among such beings. Those who worship ancestors go to the ancestors, and those who worship me will live with me. Pretty much almost word for word what Lord Brahmaji is saying here, except Brahma goes into a lot more, a longer list of names. Me personally, I never heard of this Sitala Devi, the goddess of smallpox. I mean, I didn't know there was a goddess for smallpox, but apparently there is. It's a very unusual post to hold. I understand that there are, depending on which version you read, there are either 33 million or 330 million demigods, devatas, and each one is in charge of different aspects of the material energy. I understand from reading a long time ago, I forget even where it is, there is a demigod for the blinking of the eyes. So, I mean, that's pretty amazing. So, but a demigod for smallpox? Anyway, this is news to me. So you learn something every day when you read Prabhupada's purports. So Prabhupada says, sorry?
Yes, Sitla Devi is really embedded in our society. So when our children get smallpox, we pray to her. We take her. There is a temple.
I see.
So
wow.
So we go and pray. I know smallpox is a viral infection.
Right.
I understand. Yeah. But still, we go and pray to her, and miraculously, I mean, the virus takes a course of 3 to 5 days, but because we went and prayed to her, our children are saved.
Wow, that's interesting.
So you know that also, right? You know that also, because we used to do the same thing. Then after 3 days or 7 days sometimes, we will just give bath to the person with turmeric water and some neem leaves, and then we will offer to the mother sweet rice and chana, you know, the
right. Yes.
Yeah, we soak that and rice, and I don't know what I forgot. When I was growing up, my parents used to do that. Now I'm remember this when you said it. Yeah, it's true. Yeah, as you said, yeah. Go ahead, please.
Sorry, I've been around pretty much Hindus for the last 40 odd years. How come I never heard this before? I mean, if it's that common, it's pretty amazing. It's amazing to me to hear that there's a devata, a devi, who's in charge of smallpox. It just struck me when did I read that right? I know there's a devata in charge of everything. Probably a devata in charge of baldness, like me, and the devata in charge of this and that and the other.
Prabhuji, there are 33 million demigods.
Wow,
33 million. Yeah,
it's quite incredible. But as Prabhupada is pointing out, I mean, the whole point of this purport, pretty much, and Brahmaji's point, as well as Srila Prabhupada's purport, is to emphasize that everything is coming from Krishna. Everything ultimately is a part and parcel of the Supreme Lord. And we all know the verse, Ishvara Parama Krishna Satchitananda Vigraha Anardi Govinda Sarvakarna Karanam. Ultimately, everything is Krishna. In that Bhagavatam verse, where it's the whole list of all the incarnations, and the final line is Krishna's to Bhagavan Swayam. Ultimately, but Krishna is the supreme personality of Godhead. And Prabhupada goes on to point out all the different kinds of worship, Daridra Narayan, we all know that Prabhupada was not at all in favor of this Daridra Narayan. He said, if Narayan is so poor, then how on earth can Narayan fall down from the spiritual world and become a Daridra? How can he become a poor man? He's the Supreme Lord. So the name beginning from Brahmaji, is Prabhupada saying here, the first living creature within the universe, down to Lord Shiva, Lord Vishnu, Narada, and other powerful demigods. I love the list. Men, supermen, sages, rishis, and other lower creatures of extraordinary strength and opulence. We all know Priya Govinda Prabhu, he will confirm that in old, and not so much now since the advent of Christianity in Africa, that the Kikuyus, they worship Ngai. And Ngai is living in Mount Kenya, Sindio. And, but there's always this idea, whether people are aware of scriptures or not aware of scripture, there's always this intrinsic notion. It's a part of our psyche. It's a part of our being. There always has to be a supreme person who's greater than us. And some people worship ghosts and spirits. Prabhupada points out in another canto, in one of his purports, that in the Second World War, there were some people in Bengal who had a picture of Hitler on their altar, because they were worshiping Hitler, because they were making money from the war. So there are other people, when Trump was in power, people had pictures of Trump on their. So people concoct all kinds of stuff that just goes on and on and on forever, and ultimately it's based on ignorance. It's all based on ignorance. There's only one God, as Prabhupada has pointed out this so many times. There can only be one God. He is one without a second. We did that in a previous shloka before we went into the Ramayana. There is only one God. The less intelligent man is surprised to see the wonderful actions of material phenomenon. And this is the point. It's down to the less intelligent man. So people just don't understand. And so then when Krishna appears in his original form, as we all know from the Mahabharata, Duryodhana just didn't understand, didn't accept that this is God. Everybody else did. Everybody else did. Even Karna. Bhima, of course, Bhishma rather, he was on the opposing side in the war, but he knew straight away this is God. He knew, and the whole recitation of the Bhishma speech during the time when he was waiting for death to come. I mean, that's full of instruction. And Krishna was sitting there listening to Bhishma's instructions to the Pandavas and how they should rule. So the problem is that because people are covered, they make up different ideas. God is this, God is that, God is the other. There's always an incarnation of God popping up here, there, and everywhere. But these incarnations of God, we're going to find out in the next chapter, because it's coming after the next shloka, scheduled incarnations of specific functions, with specific functions. So if it's not in the Bhagavatam, if it's not in the Shastra, then it's completely and totally a product of the mind. It's a complete and total speculation. We have to go by Shastra. There must be three things in place: Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra. And if it's not, then it has to be questioned whether it is correct or whether it's not correct. So, like even at the end of Kali Yuga, the Lord is going to appear as Kalki. That is in the Bhagavatam, the village in which he will be born, his parents, everything is listed in the Bhagavatam. The Bhagavatam was written 5,000 years ago and spoken 5,000 years ago. And here we have the prediction of Lord Buddha, who appeared 2,500 years later. All the Das avatars, everything is listed. And there's an incarnation of the Lord, as Prabhupada describes in so many places, like the waves of the ocean coming in on the shore. How many waves are there on the shore? There's an incarnation for every single millisecond. 8,400,000 species of life. 8,400,000 species of life. And the Lord has appeared in every species. Every single species. We're aware of the major ones. Who would imagine, outside of the kind of Hindu umbrella, if we can call it that, who would imagine the Lord appearing as a fish? The Lord appeared as a fish. The Lord appeared as a turtle. The Lord appeared as a horse. The Lord appeared as a half man, half lion. I mean, these, to the normal kind of everyday consciousness in this 21st century, these are inconceivable. So when Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, those who understand the nature of my appearance and disappearance, they are the ones who are the most intelligent. Because for the ordinary class of men to enter into the consciousness of this kind of a philosophy and this kind of instruction and this kind of knowledge, it's a huge, huge leap. And it's something that we take for granted. For us, it's like it's a part of our everyday consciousness. So look at how far we have come. I mean, we have some way to go, but look at how far we have come compared to the general class of men who are completely and totally in ignorance. So we have to build on that. Samahatma Sudurlabha. Such a great soul is very, very rare. And it's a fact. So we have come to this platform. Prabhupada is saying here, and he Prabhupada always picks on the poor scientists. They always get a rough time from Prabhupada. And he really hammers it home. But he puts them in the same category as the so-called ignorant aborigine who's worshipping the mountain or worshipping a banyan tree, as is pointed out here. The modern scientist is also captivated by the wonderful actions and reactions of natural phenomena, and therefore is also a Shakta. The actions and reactions. See, there's always that action, reaction. For every action is an equal and opposite reaction. It's a basic law of physics. These lower grade persons, lower grade, the scientists are the lower grade, gradually rise to become Suryas, worshippers of the sun god, or Ganapatyas, worshippers of the mass people as Janata, Janardhan, or Daridra Narayan in the form of Ganapati. And then rise to the platform of worshipping Shiva. So it's a gradual step-by-step process. And we all know that Prabhupada's, whilst he had great respect, Prabhupada had great respect for Gandhi. But on the other side, he said he used the Bhagavad Gita for political purposes. It's not the purpose of Bhagavad Gita. This worship of Daridra Narayan, Prabhupada never liked it. That doesn't mean that Prabhupada was callous or indifferent to the needs of the poor. He wasn't. That's why when he saw from his balcony in Mayapur, the people scrambling amongst the leftovers that were thrown, the banana leaves thrown out by the devotees, and the clay cups that were thrown in a heap that we do in Mayapur. We all eat from banana leaf, and we have those little clay potteries cups. And we saw the children fighting for the scraps of food that were. Prabhupada was so brought to compassion. He said, "No, this has to stop. Nobody within a 10-mile radius of the temple should go hungry." This was Prabhupada's injunction. So it's not that Prabhupada was indifferent to the needs of the poor. He started Food for Life programs all over the world. And that is carrying on in as far as I'm aware, practically speaking, in every temple that I know of, that I've ever been in, there's a Food for Life program. Every single temple I've ever stayed in, there's a Food for Life program. So, but at the same time, this idea of worshipping the Daridra, the poor or the poverty-stricken as Narayan, yes, we're all part and parcel of God. That's a fact. But we cannot equate one as being the same as the other. We are part and parcel of God, but we're not God. So this is bordering on impersonalism. And Prabhupada was always emphasizing the need and the essential aspect of our philosophy that Krishna is a person and he should be respected and worshipped and loved as a person. So to go into all the impersonal stuff, Nirvishesha Sunyavadi, it's part of Srila Prabhupada's Pranam mantra, Nirvishesha, and he coined that mantra himself. It's a very unusual situation that Prabhupada was placed in, coming to the West, eventually gathering followers and making disciples and people who wanted to respect him as a spiritual master. If you remember, in the early days in New York, 1966, everybody just called him Swami, because that was all they knew. And then eventually, as the devotees got to know more and understood more, and were intuitive enough to understand from Prabhupada's lectures the elevated status on which the spiritual master is placed, then the devotees were beginning to realize Swami doesn't quite cover it. So I think it was either Satrup Maharaj or Jadharani, Satrup Maharaj's former wife. She went to Prabhupada and said, Srila Prabhupada, we understand that the term Swami is okay, and we're finding it that we've got used to this name now, but we understand that there should be something more. Is there some other way in which, respectful way in which we can address you as our spiritual master? This is the very early days. Devotees are, not aware of, very much that's going on as far as the philosophy is concerned. So Prabhupada pondered it. He said, yes, normally he suggested that the spiritual master can be called Vishnupad or Prabhupada, and he suggested names like that. His spiritual master was called Prabhupada. There was a lot of controversy from his godbrothers. Why are your disciples, why are you allowing your disciples to address you as Prabhupada? Prabhupada said, I don't call myself Prabhupada. And if you look at my letterhead, all my literature, there's no mention of the word Prabhupada. And that's a fact. You look at any of Prabhupada's books, the word Prabhupada is not mentioned anywhere. It's A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. But that was adopted much, much later. But it's not on Prabhupada's letterhead. Prabhupada never signed his name. He always signed his name A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami. So then Prabhupada allowed, and then they said, well, what would be the pranam mantra? How would we address you? So then Prabhupada designed that mantra himself, inspired by his own Guru Maharaj. He designed that mantra, Nama Om Vishnu Padaya. That's the standard introductory mantra for all the gurus, regardless of the name of the guru. But then Prabhupada designed the second part, Nirvishesha Sunyavadi, because Prabhupada realized this impersonalism is the cause of the destruction of the entire planet. And we have to overcome, we have to defeat this impersonalism, which is killing everything, because it's not recognizing the Supreme Lord as a person. It's putting him in another category entirely. Yes, there is God, and there is this, and there's a great being up in the sky, and there's this power and majesty and so on and so forth, an old man living in the clouds with a great big beard. There's all kinds of notions and ideas that have nothing to do with Krishna, nothing to do with Vishnu, nothing to do with any of the incarnations of the Lord. So Prabhupada, to defeat this idea, Prabhupada emphasized the Nirvishesha Sunyavadi. So in that purport to 925, Prabhupada, where Prabhupada is saying, if anyone has any desire to go to the moon, the sun, or any other planet, one can attain the desired destinations by following specific Vedic principles recommended for that purpose. So everything can be achieved if we follow a principle. And that principle is outlined in the Bhagavatam. That principle is outlined in the Vedic scriptures, regardless of what it is we want to achieve. If we can use the Vedic scriptures in such a way that we can achieve something material. People go to worship the demigods. Those who worship the demigods will take birth among the demigods. If that's what we want opulence, we want grandeur, we want majesty, we want this, we want that, we'll get that. Whatever our desire is, that's why we have to be very, very careful what we desire. If we desire this demigod relationship and we want to go to the Swargalok, we can go. It's not a problem. It can be fulfilled. Those who worship ghosts and spirits will take birth among such beings. This is Krishna speaking. Those who worship ancestors go to the ancestors, and those who worship me will live with me. So why does Krishna say in verse 66 of the 18th chapter, just give up all varieties of religion and just surrender unto me? There were no varieties of religion at Krishna's time. There was no Christianity, there was no Hinduism, there was no Buddhism, there was no Judaism, there was no Islam. These things didn't exist. Krishna is saying, give up all varieties. Religion in the sense that only worship me. Those who worship me will come to me. Of this there is no doubt. They will live with me. So Prabhupada says in that purport, these are vividly described in the fruitive activities portion of the Vedas. Fruitive activities. So that's the difference. If we want fruit, we want the fruit of the tree. Whatever we plant, if we're planting it with a personal motivation, that's what we get. That's exactly what we get. If we're planting it with a motivation of love and devotion to the Supreme Lord, we will get that love and devotion to the Supreme Lord. But as long as there is a personal motivation, that's what we get. There's nothing wrong with that, because we're all ultimately personally motivated, but it's not ultimately in our own self-interest to do so. We have to set aside gradually the personal motivation and just eliminate it entirely. We can't do that overnight. There's always a personal motivation. Behind the scenes, no matter how devoted we may be, there's always something in the back of my mind, if I do this, and Krishna will give me this, Krishna will give me that. With Radharani, with the gopis, there's no motivation whatsoever, none. That's why I keep repeating this point, but it's an important one. When the gopis went to Kurukshetra to meet with Krishna, and Krishna gave benedictions to all the people who came to see him, and he said to the gopis, there's absolutely nothing I can give you. How can I repay you? You have given me everything. You have dedicated your whole existence, your whole being, your whole soul to serving me. The only thing I can offer you is your service. Imagine, Krishna didn't have the power to repay the gopis for the service that they gave. And we all know the story of Sudama Brahman. When Sudama Brahman went to see Krishna in Dwarka with his so-called chipped rice, his little bag of chipped rice, he was just embarrassed to even show it to Krishna. And Krishna said, what are you hiding there? What have you got behind your back? He said, no, nothing. I didn't bring anything. No, let me see. You have something there. So Krishna broke open the bag, little bag of chipped rice, and started relishing it. So was Krishna interested in chipped rice? Dried, broken, chipped rice? Of course not. But the mood in which Sudama Brahman approached Krishna and offered this, didn't even offer it, Krishna dragged it out of him, because Krishna could understand his heart. So by reading his heart, and Krishna started to relish this chipped rice. He wasn't interested in the chipped rice. He was interested in the motivation in which Sudama Brahman, in all his humility, that was all he had to offer. And he was pushed to go to Dwarka to appeal to Krishna by his wife. So we can't live in this poverty-stricken condition. Krishna is your friend. Krishna is our friend of all of us. We are all in the same position as Sudama Brahman and his wife. She was right. Krishna is your friend. If you want anything, go to Krishna. Even if it appears to be materially motivated, that's irrelevant, because that material motivation ultimately is in the mood of wanting to serve Krishna in a way in which you can do so in a comfortable position. So there's nothing wrong with asking Krishna for anything, but the motivation is what is important. The motivation in which we put into the chanting of our rounds, the chanting of our japa mala, that is what we will get. Prabhupada says, and look at what happened with that sweet rice, with that chipped rice. The goddess of fortune had to stop Krishna from eating anymore. Stop, Krishna. Please, 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 don't eat anymore. I will not have the power. The goddess of fortune is saying, I will not have the power to be able to repay him. You've eaten too much already. Because Krishna was reciprocating with the love, just like he was with the gopis. I do not have the power. Krishna didn't even turn to the goddess of fortune. In the case of Sudama Brahman, it was the goddess of fortune who made his home, when he went back home, into this opulent palace, this beautiful homestead, covered in opulence, which he wasn't expecting. He was expected to go home and just meet his normal everyday mud hut that he had just left. When he got home, he saw from a distance that this amazingly opulent palace was there, just from a few pieces of chipped rice. But in the case of the gopis, Krishna didn't have that power. He just couldn't bring out, there was nothing conceivable in Krishna's mind that he could do or say or enact which would repay the gopis. Only your service. Your service alone is your, so that's the same for us. We're not in any different, our service, that is our reward. And it's all throughout Prabhupada's books, all throughout the scriptures, we hear this over and over and over again. Service, 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 service. It's preparing us for our eventual entry into the spiritual world. We're in the practicing stage now, the practice of sadhana bhakti. But the ultimate stage is to bring us to the point of rendering direct service to the Supreme Lord. Technically known, the fruitive activities of the portion of the Vedas are technically known as Darsha Purnamasi, which recommends a specific worship of demigods situated on different heavenly planets. Similarly, one can attain the Pitta planets by performing a specific yajna. Similarly, one can go to many ghostly planets and become a yaksha, a raksha, or a pisacha. Pisacha worship is called the black arts or black magic. And we know a lot of people, we've come across them from time to time, who have that potency of some black arts. I've met people personally myself who have this potency. And you just wonder, where does it come from? There are many men who practice this black art and they think that it is spiritualism, but such activities are completely materialistic. When Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur accosted that ghost, one who was living in the banyan tree, and all the people were going there to worship, and so Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur just recited the Bhagavatam for 7 days, and immediately the ghost just disappeared. He had to leave. So there are so many examples of this black art which appear, and the people who are innocent, they go along and think, oh wow, this must be spiritual. But it's completely and totally materialistic, Prabhupada is saying here in the purport. Similarly, a pure devotee who worships the Supreme Personality of Godhead only achieves the planet of Krishna Loka, Vaikuntha, or without a doubt. It is very easy to understand through this important verse that if by simply worshipping the demigods, one can achieve the heavenly planets, by worshipping the Pitta, achieve the Pitta planets, or by practicing the black arts, achieve the ghostly planets, why can the pure devotee not achieve the planet of Krishna or Vishnu? Unfortunately, many people have no information of these sublime planets where Krishna and Vishnu live. And because they do not know of them, they fall down. So we can go through the ritualistic process of engaging with so many different pittas or devatas or this or that or the other. If we don't engage ultimately in the service of Krishna, it's not in our own self-interest. Not at all. That's why we have to figure out who we are. Who am I first? What's my relationship? The journey of self-discovery, the science of self-realization, all these things are related to the self. If I understand who I am, then I automatically will understand my relationship with the Supreme Lord, simply by reading these books. Even the impersonalists fall down from the Brahma Jyoti. This Krishna consciousness movement is therefore distributing sublime information to the entire human society to the effect that by simply chanting the Hare Krishna mantra, one can become perfect in this life and go back home, back to Godhead. Do you see what Prabhupada is saying here? Have we recognized that sentence? One can become perfect in this life and go back home, back to Godhead. Of this there is no doubt. There is no doubt. It is possible. Why does Krishna say to Arjuna, declare it boldly, O Arjuna, my devotee never perishes? As we were discussing during the Ramayana week, the adversity that Jatayu faced when he had his wings cut off and he was killed ultimately by Ravan. Major, massive adversity. But ultimately what happened? He died in the arms of Ram. So that's all we want. We want to die in the arms of Krishna. And how do we do that? Harinam, 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 Eva Kevalam. Kalona Steva, Nasteva, Nasteva, Kataranyata. We shouldn't get, caught up in this whole materialistic cosmic manifestation phantasmagoria. The scientists, they can't figure out how it works. They've no idea. They send their rockets into Pluto and Mars and so on and so forth, and they so-called moon landings and everything like that. And they try to. Why is it that on this Earth, all the telescopes and all the radio waves that are looking for intelligent life in outer space, why are they pointed away from Earth? They're all pointed away from Earth. There's no intelligent life here. As Prabhupada pointed out, when they went to the moon, they brought back some rocks and some dust. And Prabhupada said, laughingly, we've no rocks or dust here. They need to bring them from the moon. I mean, it's all completely upside down, totally topsy-turvy. When the Lord is described as formless in the Vedic literatures, it is to be understood that all these forms are mentioned above within the experience of universal knowledge, are different exhibitions of the Lord's transcendental potencies only. None of them factually represents a transcendental form of the Lord. None of them. And that's including all of this list. Where is it? 1865. If I could find it. The only Bhagavad Gita in this room is in Hindi. I looked in the drawer and there was no Bhagavad Gita. I usually try to have a Bhagavad, and of course I don't read Hindi, so I only have this tiny little pocket one, which is very difficult to read. Prabhupada says here, in 1865, Manmana Bhavamad Bhakto, very famous verse, Prabhupada says, these words stress that one should concentrate his mind upon Krishna, the very form with two hands carrying a flute, the bluish boy with a beautiful face and peacock feathers in his hair. There are descriptions of Krishna found in the Brahma Samhita and other literatures. One should fix his mind on this original form of Godhead, Krishna. He should not even divert his attention to other forms of the Lord. The Lord has multi-forms, Vishnu, Narayan, Ram, Varaha, etc. But a devotee should concentrate his mind on the form that was present before Arjuna. Concentration of the mind on the form of Krishna constitutes the most confidential part of knowledge. And this is disclosed to Arjuna because Arjuna is the most dear friend of Krishna's. So we are also the most dear friend of Krishna's. I mean, when I first read that, one should not even divert his mind to other forms of the Lord. That blew my mind. We're Krishna Bhaktas. We are Krishna Bhaktas. That is our sampradaya. Brahma Madhava Gaudiya Sampradaya is like that's us. We're coming in the line of Mahaprabhu. So this is Mahaprabhu is Madhurya Leela. This is our line. We shouldn't be afraid of this or run away from it. We may not be qualified. That's a fact. But step by step, sadhana bhakta, gradually, bit by bit by bit, we will reach the stage of ultimately reaching that goal, reaching that objective. When we're chanting our mala, we're concentrating on our deity, whatever the deity in our temple is here. Of course, Sri Sri Radha Banka Bihari, Sitaram Lakshman Hanuman. We have a personal relationship with the deity that is close to our heart. No matter where I go in the world, I have to say, no matter what temple I'm in, and I've spent many years in Kenya, my heart goes to Radha Landaneshvara. That was the first Radha Krishna deities that I had a relationship with. And I spent, many years in London. But, you develop I've been Pujari in other temples around the world. I've been Pujari in Philadelphia and Washington, D.C. But, ultimately, your heart goes to where your first love is. The first love is the deepest. And when you have a personal relationship with the deity, then the deity reciprocates with you. The deity is not stone. So we're all in this very fortunate position. It doesn't matter where we are in the world, where we have a relationship with God, direct relationship with God, as a person, as a friend, as a lover, as a brother, as a sister, as a daughter, as a son, as a father, as a mother, whatever we want. Whatever we want. Why did Prabhupada choose Krishna Balaram as the main temple, as the name, the main deity in Vrindavan is Krishna Balaram? Gauri are there. Radha Krishna is there. Of course, we always think of Radha Krishna, but Prabhupada chose Krishna Balaram. That was his mood in Vrindavan. Prabhupada installed so many Radha Krishna deities all over the world. In Vrindavan, he picked Krishna Balaram. And Prabhupada exhibited so many different moods. He left it open to us, as Krishna says to Arjuna in Bhagavad Gita. Okay, I've given you so much knowledge. Deliberate on it, think about it, and then ultimately decide for yourself. So it's completely up to us. We're all independent spirit souls. We're part and parcel of the Supreme Lord, but we all have our own independence. But the independence is there in a sense. It is for us to decide what relationship we want to have with the Supreme Lord. Not independence in the way that we want to think in terms of going away from Krishna or turning our back on Krishna. The independence, ultimately, the depth of that independence and the realization of that independence is to bring us to the point of saying, yes, this is my relationship with the Lord. And that is revealed. And it's gradually revealed, and then it gradually opens up and it deepens. Tesham satadayuktanam bhajatam pritipurvakam. To those who are constantly devoted to serving me with love. And this is where we have to have the faith that Krishna's word is true. 10:10. To those who are constantly devoted to serve me with love, I give the understanding by which they can come to me. I give the understanding. So everything ultimately, it comes from Krishna. If we want to have the covering so that we can forget Krishna, he will give us that. It completely and totally depends on us. Through the mercy of Guru and Krishna, he will either cover us and we can go away from him for more millions of lifetimes, or we can remember him, Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaran. It's completely up to us. Prabhupada says, out of the 9 processes of devotional service, you simply have to perfect one. Just one. Very nice if you can perfect all 9, but if you just perfect one, that is enough. That is simply more than enough. So it's up to us. Everything is up to us. And if we have the motivation to serve with love and devotion, Patram Pushpam Palam Tayam, that's what we'll get. We will get that love back for which we all are craving. Craving. We cannot live without it, but we seek it in the wrong place. Like putting your hand in the subji and expecting that because your fingers are in the subji, then that's enough. It doesn't work. Prabhupada gives the example licking the outside of the jar in the hope that we can get the taste of honey. It doesn't work. We have to actually open the jar. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he broke open the storehouse of love of God, broke it open and distributed freely. Krishna put conditions. Krishna's conditions was simply surrender unto me. I will give you protection. Do not fear. That was Krishna's condition. Lord Chaitanya removed all conditions. There's no condition. Simply relish the nectar of the holy name of the Lord. Dive in. It's an ocean of devotion. And that's all we have to do. Simply dive in. So that's all I have to say. And on this, what's her name? Sitala Devi again. Thank you very much for that enlightenment. I've learned something new today. And it's good to know that it's a part of the Hindu culture. I'm very happy to know that. So it's amazing what we learn just by churning, by discussing, by enlightening each other, and then we learn so much. We go forward together. We encourage each other, and in this way, yeah, we just before we know it, we're dancing with Krishna in the groves of Vrindavan. I mean, who could ask for anything more? We have a really, really amazing philosophy. We have a wonderful, wonderful life ahead of us, and it just gets better and better and better every single day at every moment in time. And it's, wow. Who knows? Why are we on this platform? Why are we in this position? How are we brought to this point in our lives of being able to relish the nectar of the holy name, even if it's in a shadow way? It's still such a, compared to what's going on in the world, the anxiety that people have, the depth of deprivation, completely cut off from Krishna, cut off from the holy name, cut off from any opportunity. So we have come a long way, but we have a long way to go in the sense that we have to encourage as many people as possible to embrace this philosophy. The more and more and more, as each day passes, the more the realization is dawning on this thick skull that really there's nothing else. There's absolutely nothing else. We have to take this and grab it with full fervor, with both hands, and just completely and totally relish it. Jai, thank you very much for your patience, and thank you very much for your enlightenment. It's always great to be with the devotees in this way. And if there are any questions or comments, especially comments, I'd be very interested to hear. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank you so much for today's enlightenment. And you made a very difficult verse into so easily acceptable. It just went like a sweet into our mouth and to the heart, actually. So I'll open this up for any questions. Urmila Mataji, do you have a question or a comment? Hare Krishna.
No, thank you. No, I don't have a question.
Okay. Any question or comment? Yes, Priya, go on, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Hi, Haribol.
You discussed about 18th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. You quoted Sarva Dharma Parityaja Mamekam Saranam Vraja. So abandon all varieties of religion. These dharma, can you kindly repeat what are these dharmas?
What is Dharma?
Yeah, these dharmas.
Yeah, that's Prabhupada explains it in such a way that the word dharma, it doesn't quite translate into the into the African languages or the English languages or the European languages quite the way that we take it as being religion. Dharma is an intrinsic part of our nature, and that, like he describes it, that like when you taste sugar, it's sweet. When you taste salt, it's salty. And if you get sugar that's not sweet or salt that's not salty, then of course it can't be those objects. So religion is like that. It's an intrinsic part of our nature, but ultimately it has to lead to God. It has to lead to a personal relationship with God. So when Krishna says give up all varieties of religion, he's meaning in that sense that if we're worshiping the demigods, we're going through some ritualistic process for some ulterior motive. That's what we should give up. Not in the sense that we give up religion, but we give up religion in the sense that we're giving it up. So as we, like Prabhupada used to give the example, the Christians, when they go to church, they say, "Our Father who art in heaven, give us this day our daily bread." Prabhupada said, yes, that's fine. They're going to God and they're praying for their daily bread, but you could ask for a little bit more than just bread. God is supplying in nature all our needs, all our food, all our bread, all the wheat and all the rice and everything that we could possibly want to eat. So there's no need to ask God for something that he's already supplying. It's pointless. So in that sense, give up that personal motivation in a sense that we're just going ahead and using God as some kind of an unlimited supermarket who's going to give us everything that we want and everything that we desire, because he's already supplying. He's already there. There's no need to ask for God. We wouldn't be in this position. We wouldn't be on this planet. Like Prabhupada says, there may be so many. I forget what the population was at the time of Prabhupada's Leela on the planet, but it's a lot more now. I think it's close to 9 billion people. Prabhupada said these people wouldn't be born if Krishna didn't arrange for them to be supplied. Jesus says in the Bible, why are you bothered about all these things, what you need? Jesus says in the Bible, even the birds of the air I provide for. And Prabhupada gives the example many times. Look at all the elephants in Africa, the elephants in the jungle, and how much are they eating on a daily basis? So the idea of asking God for bread, it's a little bit of a low-level request, but it's still religion. But Krishna is saying, give up all these varieties of religion and just surrender unto me. I will give you protection, do not fear. So there's no need to ask God for anything material. He's already supplying it. It all comes from Krishna anyway. So to ask for something separately from devotional service, that kind of, it may be granted because that's our wish, that's our desire. It may be granted, but then look at what's on the other side, that we could have asked for something greater. We could have asked for more, and we just ignored the obvious. We didn't even see the elephant in the room. We just ignored it. And we went for something that's maybe satisfying us for a shorter period of time, but ultimately what we want is Krishna Prem. That's our objective, that's our goal. Anything less than that, we're just shooting ourselves in the foot. It may be given to us, but why? Why waste this opportunity? Just give up all varieties of religion, surrender unto me. I will give you protection. So Dharma, in that sense, it means that give up all personally motivated religion that is going to take us away from Krishna. It may be religion, and it may have the external image or appearance of worshiping God, but if it's personal motivation, then why? And Prabhupada gives the example all the time of the housewife in England going to pray for, during the war to bring all their loved ones safe home. And the German housewife is going to pray to bring their loved ones safe home from the war. And God is supposed to be confused. They're both going to God, but completely opposing purposes. They're fighting, they're killing each other. It's not a just war. It's a materially motivated war. At least Kurukshetra was a just war. Prabhupada said there were only two battles. Two battles. The battle with Ravan and the battle of Kurukshetra. Everything else was material. Everything. So Dharma is the real deal. The real religion is surrender unto Krishna. Do not fear. I will give you protection. Jai. Thank you very much. I think it's like a little bit after. Is it after our time? Are we okay? Can we ask any more questions?
We've exhausted our time, but if there is any burning question, we can ask. Or I can hand over to Parth. He was there, but he's not there now. No, he's not there. Okay, so Priya Govind Prabhu, is it possible for you to end this session for today? Hare Krishna.
Yes, Mataji. Yes, it's
Hare
possible.
Krishna.
Yes, Prabhuji, thank you so much for such a mind-boggling class. Amazing how you have compounded that class. The shloka was a bit complex. I've understood so much about it. And of course, I don't have time to go around and discuss it. So, Prabhuji, we are so grateful for having you. And for Prabhuji's glorification, kindly, let's unmute our devices and chant at least one round of Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Kindly.
Krishna,
Hare
Hare Krishna,
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama.
Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
His grace we need
Kalpatarubhyascha, Kripa Sindhu Vaivascha, Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha.
Hari Hari Bol.
Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Ananda Koti Vaishnav ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, His Grace Vidura Prabhu ki jai, Algorithm Yakura ki jai. Hare Krishna.
Jai, thank you very much. Good night, everybody. Very grateful. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Hari Bol.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Thank you.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Jai, Hari Bol. Good night. Hari Bol.